This content is the property of Put It Out There TV, also known as PIOT TV, a property of the House of Yasha Allah El Trust. If you are viewing and or listening to this content on a non-PIOT TV branded platform, then we kindly ask that you stop and flag this content for copyright infringement. Thank you.
Peace and love, Moors. Peace and love, everybody who is part of the human family. This is Judah's son for Put It Out There TV. I appreciate you allowing me to take up so much of your very valuable time. This one right here is specifically directed to the Moors out there. And as you can see, this is titled, let me change my mind after I get done recording this, but something along the lines of Moors, the marriage license, and is it prostitution? Now, one of the main reasons why I want to get into this is to educate or help people look at some things, or one thing specifically, the marriage, from a perspective of law as a Moor. Secondly, one of the other reason why I want to do this is because of all of the finger pointing that has been going on within the Moorish community. So I guess the reason for this particular video is to educate and expose. Educate and expose. Again, I say you have a bunch of finger pointing that has been going on within the Moorish community. You have Moors who are trying to be active, who are trying to enforce the Constitution as they have been charged, who are being labeled as sovereign citizens, undesirables, anti-government, terrorists. With the other side being the Moors, their brothers and sisters who are agreeing with these things. Moors who posture, Moors who just go to church and posture. And before I go on, I want to make it clear, before we get even 5 minutes into this particular video, again, the Moorish Science Temple of America is not on trial here. Leadership is on trial. I don't want anyone to think that the Moorish Science Temple of America represents these men who are saying that they are leaders, yet they sit down in their haughty and lofty positions and point fingers. The Moorish Science Temple of America does not represent them. They represent the Moorish Science Temple of America. So again, the Moorish Science Temple of America, in its lawful form, fashion, shape, operation, foundation, is not on trial here. It's leadership. All right. So let's go over here to this page. And this is some documentation that comes from a website that's titled moorish.land/study-materials. And this is a PDF version of a book that is a compilation of some of the sayings of Noble Drew Ali and some of the sayings of Noble Drew Ali. All right. So, on number 238 here, it says, one of the sayings of the prophet is, the holy prophet told the Moors, when you get married, go before your grand sheikh and let him perform this ceremony. some of the Moors did not obey the Holy Prophet's order. So he told the Moors, go downtown and buy your wives from the Europeans. Now, when I first seen this saying 12 years ago, I was confused. I couldn't quite understand why Noble Drew Ali would tell Moors to go downtown, City Hall, or the Court of Common Pleas where I domicile at, and have Moors purchase their wives, buy their wives from the Europeans. The reason why this was, found it in confusion for me when I first heard this was because I knew that it didn't make sense for Moors to do that. I knew that that was an act that dealt with being an accomplice to human trafficking. Now, the reason why I knew this, why I had knowledge of this, is because I know that the only one who can ordain the marriage between man and woman is the Most High, Yahuwah, Allah to some of you, Ra to some of you, whoever your respective power may be. I knew that that wasn't a thing that was to be licensed. I knew that it was partaking in a form of the misnomer word slavery. Buying your wives from the European is no different than being a free man. Let's say you're a Moor during the so-called period of so-called slavery, when the Aboriginal and indigenous Moors of the Americas were held against their will as chattel property, right? Let's say you're a free Moor. You've proclaimed your Moorish American nationality, corrected your status. You are now a free man. No form of bondage whatsoever. Your Moorish appellation, you had your title, your El, your Bey, your Al, right? And what you do is you go down to a property holder, a slave holder who holds property at the county level with documents of this property, and you purchase a flesh and blood being as a companion. How does that sound? How does that look? It didn't make sense to me. So then, years later, as I continued my studies in this Moorish paradigm that we are in, I came back across this again, this particular saying that we're looking at here on the screen. And I knew that the noble, or the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, was not telling Moors to go and buy their wives. He was not telling Moors to go get a marriage license, which is a continuation of the practice that was used against our foremothers and forefathers. The marriage license is what was signed and issued by the slaveholder when two slaves of separate plantations were married, or when two so-called slaves of the same plantation were placed in a convoluted form of marriage. That is what the marriage license is a continuation of. So when I came across this statement again, I knew that that's not what the Prophet was saying. I knew that wasn't the marriage law that was being issued out by the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Yet, the Moors, who are holier than thou, who sit within the temples. And again, I say the Moorish Science Temple of America is not on trial here. But these Moors who sit in these temples, some of these 70, 80-year-old dilapidated small buildings, no bigger than my basement, not growing it, pointing the finger at Taj Tariq Bey, RV Bey, Empress Ninti, El Bey, United States of America Republic Moors, USAR Moors, calling them radicals, rogues, extremists. These same lofty leaders of the Moorish Science Temple who are pointing fingers and talking about confusion is being caused by the likes of men such as Taj Tariq Bey, RV Bey, and everyone over there, and all these different Moors. They say that it's law. They have been wife buyers, wife purchasers, partaking in human trafficking, so-called slavery, partaking in principles that delude to slavery. We know why the marriage license was issued. And we may get into that on another video, but we're going to focus on this. How do we know that these Moors are in violation? These leaders, these grand sheiks who are pointing all the fingers, yet going to the county court, buying their wives from Europeans, buying their wives from those who are extension of Roman expansion, Roman enterprise. How do I know that they are in violation? Before I go into that, we are going to go into the American Constitution. Congress, First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech. We're going to go back. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That is the American Constitution. What I want you Moors out there to realize is that in the state, in the country, the republic where you domicile, that is called a state, you have an equivalent of that in your Constitution. And I'm going to prove that. Give me one brief second here. All right. Now, what we are looking at here is the Ohio Constitution, 1802. 1802 Constitution. I really prefer some of the older constitutions. I know a lot of you Moors out there, you know exactly what I mean. I really prefer those. Either way it goes, it's going to say the same thing in the current Constitution for the Ohio State Republic. So this is Ohio Constitution, Article 8, Section 3 under the Bill of Rights. All right. It says here, this is the equivalent of the First Amendment. It says that all men have a natural and indefeasible right to worship Almighty Allah, Almighty Yahuwah, Almighty Ra, Almighty Vishnu, according to the dictates of conscience, that no human authority can in any case whatever, control or interfere with the rights of conscience, that no man shall be compelled to attend, erect, or support any place of worship. So we're going to stop there. All right. You see that. Let's go back to the First Amendment here of the American Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The Ohio State Republic Constitution, 1802, Bill of Rights, Article 8, Section 3 says that all men have a natural and indefeasible right to worship Almighty Allah, Almighty Yahweh, Almighty Vishnu, Almighty whoever, Zoroaster, you see what I mean? According to the dictates of conscience, that no human authority can, in any case whatever, control or interfere with the rights of conscience. I'm going to stop there. Now, why did I go over that? I go over that because the Moorish society that all of us Moors are attached to, whether members of the Moorish Science Temple or not, is theocratic, or what some like to call ecclesiastic in nature, in foundation, in the way that it's put together. All right, so what we are going to do here is we're going to go into the definition of theocracy over ecclesiastic, because I know that's what a lot of people like to go with. But it says here, a theocracy is a species of government which claims to be immediately directed by, they say God, I'll say Allah, Yahweh, Ra, depending on whoever it is that you give your reverence to. Excuse me. Right. So it says here, species of government which claims to be immediately directed by God, Yahweh, Allah, Ra, right? Now, that goes into serving two masters. You can't serve two masters, right? Now, these are something that all the great, all the so-called religious writings speak to. This is something that they all speak to. So one that we can all be familiar with. You could find something as similar as this in the Quran, I'm sure, in the Bhagavad Gita, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm sure you can find this in anything, any true principles. It says, no man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God, Allah, El, Yahweh, Ra, Vishnu, and Mammon. You can't serve two masters. You can't be under a OG Blood and under a OG Crip. You can't serve two masters. That's in anything. You cannot serve two masters in anything, period. So that means that what? Moors have a decision to make, because the decision as of late means that Moors have been in violation. Let's see. What we are going to go into now is what is known as the Red Book. Also, it is titled The Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood of the East. All right. Now, you can procure yourself a copy of this by going in the caption of this video and clicking the link. and it will take you to the Moors marketplace and more, to where you can procure yourself a physical copy of the Red Book, or the Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood of the East. Now let's go, because Moors say they honor all true prophets. Jesus, right? Jesus is one of those prophets, or Prophet Yeshua. Yeshua reveals the marriage law. Wait a minute. Did they say the prophet said follow the law? Here we go. Yehoshua reveals the marriage law of man and wife from Allah. I'm going to go from verses 2 to 12, because this is what this is about. This is what this fits into. It says, now, marriage in the sight of law is but a promise made by man and woman by the sanction of the priest to live together until death. No priest or officer has the power from Allah to bind two souls in wedded love. What is a marriage tie? It is not what the priest may say or do. There is but one true marriage, and Allah alone can perform this marriage. It is the love of Allah that finds its way into the two, man and woman's hearts. And that is all ever to be. Your priest cannot cause this to be. Is the promise of the two that they will love each other until death? Is love a passion that is subject to the will of man? Can man pick up his love as he would a gem and lay it down or give it out to anyone? Can love be bought and sold like sheep? Love is the power of Allah that binds two souls and makes them one. There is no power on earth that can dissolve this bond. The bodies may be forced apart by man or death for just a little time, but they will meet again. Now, in this bond of Allah, we find the marriage tie. All other unions are but bonds of straw, and they who live in them commit adultery. Did y'all get that? See, the prophet Yehoshua has already laid down a marriage law. Yeshua, the prophet Yeshua, is a religious figure. Not only that, within a theocratic form of government, he is an officer. So all he did was reveal the law. I'm sorry, he didn't lay it down. He didn't write this law. He revealed a law that already existed. Now you ask, why are they going down getting marriage licenses from the county court? These grand sheiks, these leaders, these so-called leaders who sit in these temples in dilapidated buildings and point fingers at Taj Sharik Bey and may like he's the reason why the Moorish movement is like it is. Why are these leaders not following the law laid down by the prophet Yehoshua? Now I see why Noble Drali was sarcastic after telling Moors, when you get married, go before your grand sheik and let him perform the ceremony. But see, some of the Moors didn't listen. They are still not listening. So after a while, he said, go downtown and buy your wives from the Europeans. Because Moors were being hard-headed then. Moors were being hard-headed then. They're being hard-headed now. They've continued to go and buy their wives, sully themselves with prostitution, adultery. Why? Because they have gone to the judge as the master. They have gone to the state of as the master. Purchased the license, the permission to be one with their wives. Talk about confusion. Talk about confusion. And then some of you going to be like, well, the judge is just a man. We know the judge is just a man and, No. It goes deeper than that. See, why do you think the prophet said, go to your grand sheik and let him perform this ceremony? Because when you go through the courts, and get this document here, this slave document here, you are getting permission from a chief priest of the Christian religion, of the Roman enterprise. You are still going to the Romans and getting their stamp as a permission to be one in union with your wife. Look, you have, let me see here. You have undersigned as a municipal judge, solemnizing the marriage. Look, I'm thinking this is Charlie. I don't know. I can't read his signature. Municipal judge. The judge is a priest. Let's see if we could verify that. Okay. Solemn. The formalities, of law that should be observed. That's their law. Solemnization of marriage. The performance of the formal act or ceremony. See, this is a religious ceremony, is what this is. This is a religious ceremony. The contracting, the performance of the formal act or ceremony by which a man and woman contract marriage and assume the status of husband, housebound, and wife, woman of bread, as a requirement of the law. Any celebration or ceremony which gives utterance to and public evidence of the contract of marriage. Now, in order to fit this was done within the temple. This is something that would be done in the temple. In the Bible, the ceremony, the religious ceremony, would be held in the public space of the people of that community. See, there's twofold to communities. They're private and they're public. But see, when you're a part of their private society and they do things within that society to make everyone knowledge or acknowledge of a certain act, it's public within that society. Moors are a religious, theocratic, sovereign government, a society of their own. So when they do that ceremony in front of each other within their private society, it's public because they've all been made knowledgeable of it. You do not need the Christian priest judge. And that is what has been going on. It's just as simple as that. That's what's been going on. So let's read this again from the prophet Yeshua. And then you ask your leaders who are pointing fingers. And I know there's probably some good grand sheiks out there that's probably, going to get thrown under the bus with this. No disrespect. But you ask your grand sheiks about this law. And you ask them about the right of conscience as we went over in this Constitution here. You ask them about this right of conscience and about serving two masters. And you go to the Quran of Muhammad, where it's speaking about serving two masters. And you go to the First Amendment about how you have a right of conscience. And then you come back to this red book, The Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood of the East, and you look at this and you inquire with the law that has been laid down by the prophet Yeshua, the marriage law of man and wife from Allah. And you say, the prophet Yeshua said in verses 2 through 12, now marriage in the sight of the law is but a promise made by man and woman by the sanction of the priest to live together until death. No priest or officer has the power from Allah to bind two souls in wedded love. What is a marriage tie? It is not what the priest may say or do. There is but one true marriage, and Allah alone can perform this marriage. It is the love of Allah that finds its way into the two, man and woman's heart. And that is all ever to be. Your priest cannot cause this to be. Is the promise of the two that they will love each other until death. Is love a passion that is subject to the will of man? Can man pick up his love as he would a gem and lay it down or give it out to anyone? Can love be bought and sold like sheep? Love is the power of Allah that binds two souls and makes them one. There is no power on earth that can dissolve this bond. The bodies may be forced apart by man or death for just a little time, but they will meet again. Now, in this bond of Allah, we find the marriage tie. All other unions are but bounds of straw, and they who live in them commit adultery. Now let's go back to this because there are some things that jumped out to me here. This is a marriage law from Allah, the Most High, the Grand Master of all. You cannot serve two masters. This is his law. All right. No priest, no Christian priest or Muslim priest or officer of a court has the power from Allah to bind two souls in wedded love. It's not what the priest, the judge, the officer of the court may say or do. What is a marriage tie? It is not this marriage license. It is not the order from the court. There's but one true marriage, and Allah alone can perform this marriage. That means that when a man and woman love each other, become one with each other, know each other, live with each other, have a contract with each other, verbal, written down between them in front of the Most High. That is marriage. That is marriage. Even outside of the legal definition that we found in this dictionary, this is the truest, purest form of marriage. This is speaking on common law marriage. Yet you have grand sheiks who have purchased and bought their wives from Europeans. It is the love of Allah that finds its way into the two. You see, man and woman's hearts. And that is all ever to be. Your priest cannot cause this to be, not even the grand sheik. But for proper jurisdictional purposes under the law, Noble Drew Ali told Moors to go to their grand sheik, who is their judge in the law, who is their priest in the law, whose job it is to enforce law. For jurisdictional purposes, he told you to go to the grand sheik. Let's keep going. Is the promise of the two that they will love each other until death. This is what it's telling you. It says, what is the marriage tie? Again, it is the love of Allah that finds its way into the two, man and woman's hearts. That is all ever to be. It is the promise of the two that they will love each other until death. That's contract. That's common law contract. Then it goes on to ask this. Is love a passion that is subject to the will of man, court order? Because you know that a court can deny your marriage. They can find whatever arbitrary reason to deny your marriage and have you go through further process to where you have to go through higher courts to get your remedy. Is love a passion that is subject to the court order of a man, the will of a man? Can man pick up his love as he would a gem and lay it down or give it out to anyone? It's saying, can man have ownership of this love between you and your wife and give it to you and her? Can love be bought and sold like sheep? This marriage license is paid for. Bought and sold like sheep. That is talking about chattel property. That is slavery. That's slavery. Love is the power of Allah that binds two souls and makes them one. There is no power on earth that can dissolve this bond. No power. Do you hear me? Not even death. Now, in this bond of Allah, we find the marriage tie. It says in this bond of Allah, not in the bond of the judge at the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas, not at the municipal court, not at the church, not at the Moor Science Temple, but it should be for jurisdictional purposes. Now, in this bond of Allah, we find the marriage tie. All other unions are but bonds of straw, and they who live in them commit adultery, because you have whored yourself by making the courts the pimps, selling your wife, buying your wives as they sell your wives to you for pleasures of the flesh, cooking, cleaning, taking trips, lifetime companion. And you've made the judge, the El, the power, the so-called God. Because when you go into a concordance for your Bibles, you'll see that the word judge also, or the word El, is also used for the word judge and judges in the scriptures to speak of men in positions and offices. So, maybe we need to get this prostitution thing resolved that is sullying the temple before we do all this finger pointing. Furthermore, Moors shouldn't be partaking in human trafficking, buying your wives, prostitution, whoremongering, breaking the law that was revealed by the prophet Yehoshua, who you say you honor as he is true and divine. This is Judas' son, speaking about Moors, the marriage license, and prostitution. Put It Out There TV. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe wherever you may be watching this at. Especially if you're on the Put It Out There TV website. Make sure you register for an account. I'm out of here. Peace and love.